Hey there, my friends. Welcome to That Evening Spark, where we are at our 8th part of our 10-part series of the characteristics of God's teachers. Patience is the one we are at now. Had that trust, had that honesty, had that tolerance, you got that generosity, you got that joy, you got that defenselessness, you got that generosity, and oh baby, you have had the patience for patience. So when it comes to patience, it's basically it's when there is a certainty of the outcome. And because if you are certain of the outcome, you can afford to wait. And you can wait. What's more, you can wait without anxiety. Because, see, patience is natural to the teachers of God because they recognize their outcome. So, it's more. I got a little tripped up there. It's more than just having a certain outcome. I think the real depth of our patience comes when there is that unity of interest of another. And what I mean by that is like what a teacher of God is. When you're living that life as a teacher of God, seeing the interest of another in yourself. So wanting to see the face of Christ in your brother and sharing that and where they're at, being able to be there with them in their interest. Because one thing I've learned is, for instance, if you want to talk to someone about God, but they're not, even if you're telling them the gospel, you're telling them, this genuine gospel of truth, this real truth of God, if they aren't there, they don't want to be there, they're gonna look at it with resentment. There's gonna be a lot of conflict, and so that's when it's about discerning the time and place for that. But when you can appeal to their spiritual senses in such a way to where there can be that unity, that's where you can really have a sense of growth. And I would say to the effect that when we feel anxious and worried and doubtful, I think sometimes then we got to be willing to examine what is our outcome we're looking for. Because a lot of times the outcomes we're looking for are of the world. And so as such, before that worldly outcome, it's so random. It's so inconsistent. Often, it's littered with disappointment, despair, anger. Broken relationships and things like that. So there's a calling to seeking for something more, and having that as your outcome. So when you do that, all you will see is that certain outcome. At a time perhaps unknown to you, but not in doubt. You don't know when it's going to happen yet, but you're not doubtful about it. For instance, like I said, there's certain things of the Spirit that you can have that sense of certainty. For instance, I want to have a forgiving relationship with my brother. My actual brother, but just all the people who I'm with. And so you make that your focus, man. And you make that, this will be my outcome. And it's amazing how things will work out in the way that they do. Sometimes, in all honesty, a lot of it does involve us going back into our past and allowing it to be corrected. Because the past will make your future. It's going to dictate how you respond to things. For instance, like in a more extreme example, if you grew up in a childhood where you had bad experiences with a certain ethnicity of people, like black people, for instance, as a child, it may affect how you view black people, for instance, in that regard, or Jewish people, or whatever. I said black people, you could put it whatever. People have those experiences, and so, or they, for instance, sometimes you notice people who have those insecurities grew up because of things that happened to them in the past that are now dictating their decisions in the now. And I think one thing that should be mentioned is that with this certainty, there's the certainty is recognizing that the time will be as right as the answer. So you don't have to worry about all the things that may happen. This goes back to trust, because patience is natural to those who trust. So you recognize that everything is helpful for you to get to that point. You want to get to that point of having a loving relationship, a forgiving relationship. So everything that would happen would thus then be for your benefit. And you have to look at it in that way. And when you do, it makes you a lot more appreciative of the things that are coming. And I think what's more is that, and this does relate to the past, is that, and this connects to the past actually, in that, if we don't feel like it's being that way, then perhaps it's unto us, and maybe we can be willing to reconsider those past decisions and how we're looking at it, especially if it's causing pain to anyone, including ourselves, especially to ourselves. Because one thing that helps with the patience, and this goes back to trust, is that you are sure of the ultimate interpretation of things, of all things. And what that means is that the ultimate interpretation is the interpretation of the Holy Spirit, that everything will be undone as it needs to, and as well, everything will be brought to the light. Nothing will be hidden. Everything from the past and everything yet to come and everything in the moment. So there's a certain sort of letting go. There's a certain sort of, and this relates back to what we talked about trust, if you want to go back to the first video in this, is that there's a recognizing of what doesn't hold value to you. And that value is about things that would prevent forgiveness in your life. Man, that's something I gotta remember. I just remembered that. And so that would include guilt. That would include shame. These things prevent forgiveness within ourselves because we feel there's this dark veil and this heavy burden upon us. But take that chain off, those chains off that would enslave you to that sense of judgment, to that sense of fear and doubt and anger and attack. That's where gentleness comes into place, because it allows us to move in those gentle frequencies. It's not to this harsh moving of anger and attack, but it's to this gentle, calm certainty that is established through patience, that each and every one of us can have established in our lives. So that's pretty cool if you think about it. So what I call you guys to do, and this is something I need to do for myself, is within your life, looking at the things of your life, looking at the things that very well may be causing you fear or doubt, and looking at what those reasons are, why they've come about, why do you feel that way about those things, like what in your past has made you believe those things. So this is a certain kind of opening up the past in a way that helps you kind of sort it out through the Holy Spirit. That's the beautiful thing. The Holy Spirit is the one to help guide you in that recognition of what's important and what's not important. And the things that are not of value are that of which, like I said, which prevent forgiveness. So things also like anger. So is there some harbored anger you're holding towards someone, some grudge? Yeah. Are you? And I think that's a big one we have to let get settled out, because this is the amazing thing, is that for instance, when it comes to forgiveness, there's this common, I think, discrepancy we have where even when I forgive them, what if they don't forgive me? Here's the thing. It's more about your peace of mind and in that sense of self-interest, about I don't wish to keep and share that hate towards somebody. So I am going to give forgiveness for my own peace of mind. And what's cool is the more you commit to it, just like, for instance, like with running, the more you commit to your athleticism, the more you find improvement. So regardless of if those other people in your life don't appreciate the forgiveness that you give towards them. That shouldn't be your objective, but rather to allow that state of forgiveness to permeate and to extend to everyone. And it's amazing how by that forgiveness, that life you live will shift the life back into its natural order for how it should be. Maybe it isn't with that person anymore. Maybe you still won't be with that person and have your seventh heaven reconciliation kind of happy-go-lucky moment necessarily as you may think, but or your not consolation, catharsis kind of thing, closure. You might not have the supposed closure, but I think more importantly though, it'll allow things to be as they were supposed to. Because maybe you having gotten into that relationship was a force of your will and not as God would have it be. And so the inevitable outcome was that destructive way. But it doesn't always have to be that way. And that's not how it always is. But it's allowing yourself to be open to what can be so that what needs to be can come about. And then having the patience to know that you will hold that forgiving relationship, that forgiving thought towards everyone, not just some, but all. And that kind of will tie into our next one about faithfulness. So we'll leave it there, and I'll let you grow in some patience and really figure out your outcomes you want in life. Think about it. What do I want to come out of this? And genuinely, not just I want to make X amount of dollars, because that's a shallow outcome. We need to go deeper, and sometimes you got to uproot the shallow outcomes so you can grow deeper and you can dig deeper. So sometimes you got to dig deep. Let me tell you, and you don't think, I don't need to dig that deep. It's not that big of a deal. And then you start getting into it, and you are realizing, wow, this is a lot more complicated and tangled up than I thought, because we've shut ourselves up so much. But that vulnerability will be the thing that really helps you heal and find growth within yourself. So we'll leave it there, and let's go forward, and let's really just allow that patience to permeate into all facets of our life. I'm there with you, friends, growing with you. Let me tell you, it's amazing how I do these things, and I find myself in the thick of it just as much as you guys are. So, but I'm here working with you. This is my testimony of healing and how to help you guys as well up this mountain we call life. That the summit is love. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow for another amazing episode of the Evening Spark. All right, this is Wolfpack signing out. Peace.